My name is Laura Normant. This is Jerry Erickson, the one and only. And who are we? In case you didn't know, I'm from Eastern North Carolina. I'm a USCF large R judge and an AQHA small R judge. I also have a small boutique, if you will, training business of about 10 horses in New Bern, North Carolina. And I show and train and judge. And Jerry, what would you like to say about yourself?
Well, they all know you.
Yeah.
So I guess I need to introduce myself.
Yeah.
And I'm from Whitesboro, Texas. I've been involved in the quarter horse industry most of my life, primarily in the overfence division for the specialty judges. I know several of you. I do not know all of you. I will say this. I have very much enjoyed working with the ones I have, and I really hope I have the opportunity to work with more of the specialty judges. It's actually been a learning experience for myself.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the pillars of judging. Is that going to show up on there?
It will.
Okay. So it can. I'm on.
Okay.
Okay. So the pillars of judging slide is something that for the specialty judges, I know we did not have, when we did this live 2 years ago, we did not have this. This past year when I've done the live clinics with Patty, this sort of organically, as they say, came to be this is Patty Carter. I give full credit to Patty Carter on this. So I think we're waiting for the screen to come up over here. But I'm just going to go over, is it not hooked up right? Hold on, we're having some technical. That's going. You want to go back?
I need to get out of the PowerPoint.
Okay. We'll have a short break. Oh, there. Okay, so I need to back up. There we go. All right, cooking with gas now. So the pillars of judging, I think it's a good reminder, not only for the specialty judges, but for all the judges that are out there. And I'm thrilled and flabbergasted that there are 140 people watching this live. But things that are important to remember when you step into the box, as I call it. Know your rules. This is your friend. Those of you that are USCF people too know this is a much more user-friendly size than the one we just received in the mail, which you could hurt a small child with it. So this is awesome. Having courage, I think, is important because sometimes you have to make decisions that you know aren't going to be popular, and it's not a popularity contest. It is, you're picking the best horse in that class on that day. That's your job. Integrity, again, I think goes with courage, doing the right thing when nobody's watching, not just when they are watching. And that includes when you judge and when you train, to make sure that you're being professional at the back gate, you're being professional in the box, you're being professional back at the hotel, you're being professional in everywhere that you can. That doesn't mean you can't have fun, but that means you need to be professional. Service, I think this, anywhere that you can give to the industry, this is one way Jerry and I are paying our service, but also pro horsemen, giving clinics, traveling out and promoting the AQHA and giving service as part of being a judge. And an ambassador also goes with that. Common sense, there's not enough common sense in our world. Y'all are smart people, use your common sense. Having discipline, a lot of what we do with the horses we require discipline of, so we should require it of ourselves, being good horsemen and horsewomen. Having respect for each other, respect for the organization, respect for the rules, respect for one another as co-trainers, co-judges, co-workers, and continue to grow. And that's why these clinics are great, because people can, maybe you can't make it to a live clinic on a day, but you can look at this and see it whenever you want on the internet. So just remember those things. Jerry, you have anything to add?
Well, in regards to the integrity part, I think people do not realize how when we're in the public venue, we are observed and noticed by a great number of people. So not long ago, I received a letter that was quite a shock, and this woman related experiences that she had observed myself do. I never even had any idea that she was watching me. So when you're out in the public, you're a representative of this industry, you're a representative of the judges, so just be aware you're being observed by a lot of people. She mentioned the rule book. A couple of the presentations that I'll be doing, I'll be bringing this up, the rules and stuff. So it does not belong here. It belongs out like this, okay?
All right, moving on. So we're going to talk about social media. On the right here is the electronic communication policy for judges. This is mine that I scanned. This is the real deal. I can't believe I still had it. I was impressed because I'm a high paper recycler, get it out. But I hope everybody who is on this webinar has seen this, signed it, and sent it back. If you're looking at it without not knowing what it is, you need to contact the Judges Department because you owe them this. I know that I am a mother of an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, so social media frightens me because of the far reach of it. And I've actually backed off of it a lot. But remember, I know Facebook is a fantastic way, Instagram, all those things are a fantastic way to communicate. They can also, I always say the internet is the best and worst thing that ever happened to humanity. So the good parts of it are fantastic, and the bad parts of it really can be bad. So it's a great servant and a terrible master, as they say. So please keep that in mind when you're judging. Try to stay off of it. You should not be texting exhibitors. You should not be texting, even if they're your friends. I mean, that part of it, and those that know me well know that I'm really... Jerry Erickson, how dare you? So there you go. 10 lashes for you. So cut your phones off. Make sure you leave your phone in. I know for when you're judging a class that's in the ring, you're going to leave your phone. Leave your phone back in the judges' room, in the judges' area. Cut the ringer off. Put it away. Don't look at it. If you're on a break. And I have 2 small kids. Carpool can blow up at any time. I understand. I get texts from home about horses and whatever. You've got to let people know that you're not going to be available. And especially, with social media, be very careful about what you put on there. And I know people like to congratulate their customers. They like to, things like that. Just use your common sense when it comes to the social media, because you would not believe people will call, people can read into things that aren't there. So make sure you've signed your social media contract and send it in, and just be smart about social media. That's all I'm going to say. You got anything to add besides getting a phone call in the middle of our presentation?
Do as she says, not as I do.
Yeah, do as I say, not as Jerry does. Okay, so moving on. We're going to talk here about the rule book a little bit. So all of this, I have the pages for the 2018 rule book. I printed them out just so I could have easy access to them. A couple of things, the judge's responsibilities are very clearly spelled out on page 282, 283. On 284, something that's fairly new that people should be aware of, and excuse my typo, it should say severe and not sever, but video review is now available. It shows it's on 911.6. It shows where there is an official videographer. Judges will be allowed to review all major and or severe penalties of 2 points or more, excluding marker penalties, which that doesn't really apply to the overfences, but also, judges may confer in a timely manner regarding lameness, rule violations, disqualification, and major penalties, provided a ring steward is present. So yesterday in the ring steward seminar, we talked about that a little bit. So be aware that those tools are at your use. Don't abuse them, but it needs to be, the self-monitoring needs to be brief, appropriate, and minimal. Video reviews, again, for major and severe, if there's a, if there's a big spread, I know we do this at the World Shows for sure, and look at those kind of things, but know that those are at your disposal. The other thing I wanted to briefly touch on was the difference for those of you that are USEF judges, the difference between our steward system and the AQHA steward system. In the USEF, every horse show is required to have a steward. That steward is hired by the horse show, which has its own set of interesting issues. But their responsibility is to deal with pony measurements, rules, making sure that the show is running smoothly like that. Every horse show has one. So if you have a problem at a USCF show, you stop the class, you say, somebody send the steward over here. And when they hear that on the radio, everybody's like, oh, something's going on. And then they come over and they help you as the judge deal with it. In AQHA, there are two different types of stewards. One is a ring steward, who sits with the judges all day and in some classes keeps paperwork, in some classes calls in results, stays with their judge, but their job is not to enforce the rules in general. Their job is to help the judge in their job. If you have an issue with rules, that ring steward can then help you deal with it, but that's not why they're there to go around looking for people breaking rules, so to speak. AQHA in the past couple of years, has it been maybe 5 or 6 years, has implemented a show stewards program similar to USCF, except that they are hired by the association. So they are beholden only to the association and the exhibitors, not the show management, and their job is to help facilitate welfare issues, rule issues, but there are just not as many of them. So if you're at an AQHA show, your first person that's going to help you is the ring steward. And then if there's a show steward, AQHA show steward there, they will also help you. So their things are there, they're just a little bit different in terms of how those work. Anything?
In lieu of an actual steward, which you would have at a USCF show, the judge himself, you can dictate a lot of things. If a judge is, let's say we're judging a hunter class, we're sitting in our judge's stand, and you are seeing an abusive situation in the schooling ring, the judge, without a steward, can stop that show, can address it, then you have to write it up and send it in. Not only that, if you see horses in the ring that have, let's say, blood or something, we don't need a steward. We can tell ourselves and we can stop it. We can remove that horse and we can contact AQHA regarding it. So the judge carries a lot of weight that perhaps at a USEF show you want your steward to do. But we're responsible, and we're responsible for this, and we're knowledgeable, so we can do this.
Yes, so keep that in mind if you're judging a weekend show or a smaller horse show. At the bigger horse shows, there's more of that personnel in place, but at the smaller ones, you definitely have complete control of what's going on in your ring. Do you have anything else you want to add? Okay,
That's good.
Moving on. Rules, rules, rules. We love rules. So if you pay attention to this part, it's going to help you later in the testing situation. So we're going to talk about some things that are new for this year, and then where to find stuff, because it can be a little bit spread out. So the first section on page 107, 108, and 109 and 111 has equipment, pictures of equipment, things that are allowed, things that are not allowed. So be sure so I have those printed out. A couple of ones I want to call your attention to is, one is when a curb bit is used, it has to have a chain on it. If it doesn't have a chain on it, then it's not legal. And that's on the top of 108. The middle of 109, English equipment. Leather bits to be solid, smooth rolled leather measuring 1 inch are allowed. The bottom, optional equipment, spurs, unroweled type, crops or bat, those are optional. They're allowed, but they're optional. 110 at the bottom of 110, pleasure driving optional equipment. Pay attention to that. And in the middle of 111, it talks about helmets. It is mandatory for all youth to wear an ASTM SCI approved hard hat with a harness during all English classes, flat and fences. It is recommended that amateurs wear them in all English classes. They are required to jump. They are recommended. So those are just a few you might want to pay attention to. On page 114 to 117, there's a very good, if you haven't reviewed, the following terminology will apply, and it talks about the walk, the trot, the canter, what's a poor trot, what's a good trot, what's a medium, what is excellent. I think the terminology is very, very good there, so just review that. That would be my recommendation to you. So that's a great source of information on 114 to 117. And then you jump over to 236 to 250, and it talks about all the class routines and judging standards. So you really are responsible as an English specialty judge. Those are the 3 places where the bulk of your information is going to be held. That's going to help you answer almost every question that you have. One thing we do want to talk about is level 1. Exceptions to rules, and I believe they are not. We talked about this yesterday. Right now, there are some. I wouldn't call them inconsistencies. Is the best word, not discrepancy, but inconsistency between some classes have level 1 exceptions and some don't. Meaning that, for example, on page 241 and 242. There is an exception for, there's some height things y'all need to know about. At the top of 242, pay attention to some new rookie rules having to do with jumping heights and fences. But in 241, it'll say, I believe it was hunter under saddle and equitation on the flat. So the middle of 241, rookie level 1 classes, exhibitor going off pattern, knocking over the wrong side of the cone, never performing the gait, lead or diagonal. They are not disqualified, but they are placed at the bottom of everyone who is eligible for the class. That is for the equitation on the flat and the hunter under saddle, correct? We talked about this. For the level 1, as of right now, and this can and probably will hopefully change depending on, for the equitation over fences and hunter, working hunter, that rule exception does not apply. So if they go off course or they're eliminated, they're eliminated. So we had some discussion about this summer at a specific horse show, and we wanted to bring it up. Hopefully that will get ironed out in March in the judges' clinic. But just be aware that if you're judging a equitation on the flat or a hunter under saddle, that exception applies. If you're judging over fences, at this point, it does not apply. And it only applies if you don't have enough entries. If you only have 4, you got to use that horse 4th. If you have 104, probably not going to make it back. I mean, you're probably not going to have to deal with it, but just be aware. You have anything else?
And, I'll just repeat. She mentioned that it was level 1 classes. You're going to hear the word novice. We prefer to call it level 1 now. But
Now
it's
you'll get
that division. It does not apply to the regular,
Jumping.
the regular divisions.
Yes, it does not apply to the amateur, the youth, or the open. Does not apply. Some other rules you want to be aware of on 243. Oh, yes.
Hey, we've got a question. This is going back to the social media.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So this may be a Patty question.
Okay.
But they're wanting to know if they're unsure whether they've signed that social media document or not. How can they find out about that?
They can email.
Okay.
Email
myself or Carla.
Patty Carter or Carla Nelson if you need a social media contract to sign and send in. You're going to have a rush. Now you're going to have a rush on them. So excellent. Yes. So
Thank
sign it.
you.
I think it's a fantastic reminder of common sense. I mean, it's a lot of come on, people. It's common sense. So. A couple other rules you want to be aware of. There's bottom under working hunter on 243. There's a whole lot of handy hunter stuff and things about course setting. You'll see it again. I suggest you review it. Page 244, the same course arrangement, minimum heights, all of those things you need to know for your job and for further testing. So keep that in mind. And yes.
You understand prior to a working hunter show starting, the judges are required to walk the course.
Walk the course.
Check the heights, check the quality of the equipment, the safety. Judges are also allowed to make changes if they think it's required. The judge is allowed to do a fair amount of things, and so in the hunter and the hunter hack, I think you should as well. The judge should go into the ring prior to the first class starting and check all the equipment.
And especially if don't assume because you're at the world show that it's, people make mistakes, whether it's a weekend show or, that you check the height, you check the cups, you make sure the cups, that they don't leave cups in for oxer rails, because that's dangerous, that walk the lines, make sure it matches that it matches what's the course you've been given, matches what's in the ring, and the numbers are on there. Again, that is your responsibility, as not just the course designer's responsibility. And sometimes the judge is the course designer, and sometimes I, as an exhibitor, have been the course designer. They'll say, if you're bringing over fences horses, you better make up a course. So be sure that you're aware of that. A couple other, know some scoring on 245, how many jumps are required in a over fences class. In the hunters, it's different than in the equitation. So be aware of what those differences are, what the minimum amount of jumps are. A new rule for this year, it's what I lovingly refer to as the -4 rule. We're going to talk about that in depth in the equitation. So if I'm saying to you right now the -4 rule and you have no idea what I'm talking about, stay tuned for, but it's going to be really important in the equitation over fences. Know what will eliminate an exhibitor in an over fences class. Bottom of 247, some jumping. Know about jumping. We're going to talk about that later. So just know your rules. These are the areas when you're doing the rule book test. These 3 areas you need to have marked and be ready to be able to recall that information. Let's see if I highlighted anything else. I think that's it in terms of rules. Do you have anything else to add?
We're good,
think
because
we're
we'll
cooking.
actually be duplicating some of these later on.
Yes, we're going to talk about some of this further, but just we wanted to be sure that you knew where to find things in our rule book. I think once you know, it's quite easy.